The Paid to Play podcast. Evey Dantès, Dantès Inferno. By PC Pod or Pad, you're listening to Paid to Play. I'm Rob Farkey, your host for this weekly exploration of the dangerous idea that bringing your whole self, especially the bits that you worry make you seem silly, geeky or odd, into your income-generating life is the best thing you can do. It might not be easy, but it's easier than we think and even fear, and I want to show you how. In every odd-numbered episode of this weekly show, I chat with a career crazy, an income iconoclast, someone who has taken the things that she loves to do, recognised that other people value the products or skills of her play, and then stood by that value and asked for, and received, financial reward. Now, when I chatted with cosplayer Vicky Vic for episode 41, we talked a little bit about the then upcoming local convention, local for where I am, which is Cairns, Tropicon. And she mentioned two things that got her keen on coming along. The first one was cosplayer Twerking Gherkin, and the second was my guest for today's episode, Evey Dantès. Evey is a phenomenal cosplayer. She has been in the craft for several years now, and not only has she become an invited guest of regional conventions, as I said, she came to Tropicon as a cosplay judge and also a panelist for the cosplay panel, but she will be, probably by the time this episode goes out, she will already have been a cosplay judge for another regional convention, Sugar City Con. She has been a mainstay of the Australian cosplay convention circuit for quite a while, and not only that, she has also made an income stream out of her play, not only by selling prints at conventions and online, but also becoming a sponsored cosplayer. She has the sponsorships of video game online storefront G2A, but also a dental company called Smile Sciences. It is my pleasure to have her on the show to chat with her about her love of cosplay and popular culture and how she has made it work for her. Evey, thank you very much, especially on such short notice for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. It's not often that I have free time, actually, so it's great that you were able to catch me when you did.
I am very glad that the stars aligned in that case. So, look,
It must have been fate.
Indeed. Look, tell me about your love of cosplay. When did it start for you?
I've been in cosplay for about 5 or 6 years, I think, at this point. It all started when my sister actually used to drag me to conventions. I always admired the people dressing up and things, but I've always been quite a self-conscious person. So I didn't think it was for me, really. And after about a year or two, I started to get very jealous, I must say. I was seeing these amazing costumes, and I was seeing completely different skill levels, like beginners, experts, anyone can have a go, really. So I thought, oh, I really want to try this. So I actually bought my first costume. It was Harley Quinn Arkham Asylum. And I wore it to my first convention, and it has since fallen apart because I wore it so often.
I know a lot of cosplayers who seem to love Harley Quinn. Oh, one thing I do have to ask, are you a Bat fan yourself?
I love Batman. Anything DC, though, really. I must say, DC, not Marvel. I love Marvel, but if I had to pick, it would be DC. Please don't kill me.
I don't think anyone will hold that against you. Out of sheer curiosity, I mean, the amount of cosplayers whom I have come in contact with, especially cosplayers of the feminine persuasion, who absolutely, well, straight off the bat, they will say that Batman is their favourite. I mean, is that the case for you, being a DC person?
I mean, as much as I love Batman, I gotta say there's so many amazing characters in the DC universe, and I gotta say I think I like the villains more. They've always been my favorite. I gotta say I've always had a soft spot for Poison Ivy and Catwoman and things. But you know what? If I did have to pick my favorite, it would probably be Batgirl.
Aha!
Yes,
The current Barbara Gordon Batgirl, or the original
definitely.
Barbara Gordon Batgirl, of course.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely. Always original. I like original.
no, I started reading DC back in the day. I picked up a comic that isn't out anymore called Azrael. And when that was, he was the guy, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but back in the 90s, there was a run where Bruce Wayne stepped down and instead of appointing Dick Grayson, as many would think would be the logical choice, he actually wound up bringing in an outsider to be the new Batman, who, as it turns out, this poor guy, Jean-Paul Valley, who had been raised by a religious cult, quite surprisingly turned out to be rather unstable. But I like the story of his journey, and I wound up when they made him, gave him his own standalone title, I picked that up. And for a while, there was this, around about the same time, there was another Batgirl who was a mute, who was also sort of trying to deal with her own problems as well. So it was sorry to divert the podcast a little bit and talk about me rather than about you, but yeah, it's interesting the things that they've done with all the characters over the years.
Isn't it amazing how many reboots and
Mm,
rewrites they've had in different universes and things?
mm.
Do you know what I must say though? Out of all the comics, I got to say, when the first comic that actually got me into comics was the Phantom, and also I owned the Rocketeer
Ah,
comics, and those are my two favorites. I got to say. So before DC even, I was obsessed with those two. I got to say, I grew up on those.
all of the Rocketeer I've seen is the movie, which was still
Oh,
fantastic.
really? You know, it came out the year I was born. So then, what does that
Well,
say about it? It was a good year.
it was indeed. Um, so yes, you got into cosplay, and oh, you mentioned that your sister dragged you out to conventions. Was that were you sort of a closet geek yourself at the time?
Oh, definitely, but I didn't like leaving the house. To this
Ah,
day, I'm still not a big fan of leaving the house, especially in the evenings. That's more my TV gaming time.
right.
It also does get cold outside of the house. So once the street lights are on, I like to be at home. But sadly, this lifestyle's getting a bit busier for me, so I haven't got as much time for those things.
Yeah, which is I think that's almost one of the saddest things I find
Oh,
about
it's, I think it
when
is.
someone makes their hobby their main thing, it actually leaves less time for them to just indulge in the hobby and all the surrounding stuff itself because they're so busy. Have you sort of found that, now that you are becoming a cosplay guest?
I do spend about 2 hours a day on average crafting, I would say. And that back in the day, that time would have been spent gaming.
Ah,
And now it's more often than not, I will put on a DVD
mm,
in the background while I craft
yeah.
instead of gaming. So I'm actually giving up gaming time for this hobby. It's
All right, well,
actually quite depressing.
sorry, what was that again?
It can be quite depressing in many ways.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I really found my niche with creating. I tell a lot of people that I have OCD, obsessive creative disorder. I love making things.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm making a jetpack, and I'm also making guns.
Oh,
I've also got 3 or 4 wigs on the go. I'm
yeah.
always making something different.
I saw a couple of guns that you put up on your Facebook profile recently. Was I right in recognizing them as being from Bayonetta?
Bayonetta, exactly. Yes. So I finished the guns and the wig. Now I've got to start with the bodysuit, which is actually going to be a bit of a challenge, I must say. But I
Mm.
really love like testing myself and things. I actually taught myself how to sew. I did do sewing at school, and I was terrible at it. I never did well. I didn't get along very well with my teacher. It was an enjoyable experience for me. But ever since I started trying to like teach myself, I actually started by just turning all of my clothes inside out and just
Right.
studying them.
Yeah.
And that's basically how I taught myself to sew. And my mum took pity on me about a year or so ago and gave me a book on advanced sewing, some tips and things to help me, which has actually been really useful. There's a lot of beginner tips I think I missed out on.
Well, there you go. Your mother must love you to give you that sort of support with your obsession, you know.
My parents are very supportive of what I do, which is
Ah.
awesome.
So, when did you first start looking at ways of taking your hobby and seeing if it could actually pay some of your expenses back?
I think it was about 2 years ago or 2 to 3 years ago that I actually started making money from this hobby. I started doing photo shoots, doing commission work, things like that. I've also done quite a few kids' parties and things.
Ah,
I've done all my working with children's check, so I've done quite a few kids' parties, face painting, that sort of thing. And I really used to enjoy that sort of thing. I've done a lot of charity work, like dressing up and going to hospitals and things.
Ah.
And I very much enjoy that side of it, though.
There does seem to be something special, as much as you might go to cons for the appreciation of your peers, there is something special about, watching a child's face light up, because a character who they've seen on the TV or in their comics has just suddenly walked into the room, isn't there?
That's probably the most amazing part of it. Often, when I used to do hospital visits as Batgirl, and the children would think I was Batgirl, I'd never correct them. I really enjoyed pretending to be Batgirl. I really got into character, and it was really great seeing that how much the kids enjoyed it.
Mm.
And I can remember experiences like that from when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think I would have been devastated to find out they weren't the real superhero. So,
Mm. I remember, oh boy, I don't like to think about how young I must have been, but meeting a Darth Vader at a local department store back in the UK in the early 80s. Um, Full suit and everything. I only have vague memories of it, but I
but
remember
you
having
still
my
remember
socks
it.
knocked off. Yeah, and you do a pretty impressive Darth Vader yourself, by the way. Was that again, completely self-made and?
The helmet was actually I actually bought that
Mm.
because I'd had it in the past, and the lightsaber was actually a present from a fan.
Ah.
But everything else was made.
Mm.
I do make the majority of my own costumes,
Mm.
but some items you just can't always make. Like I don't often make the shoes,
Yeah.
but I do often. Well, I often style my wigs. I'm obviously not making them from scratch.
Mm.
But I mean, as long as you're having fun and you're getting to be creative and you're enjoying yourself, I think that's really what it's about.
Mm.
Frankly, I don't care if you buy your costume or not.
Exactly. I do want to talk to you a little bit about photo sales because it is at once the most, perhaps in a way, obvious way for a cosplayer to be able to earn money. But from what I have gathered, it is also at the same time one of the hardest ways because you've kind of got to balance the outlay of getting the prints done and also the photo shoots themselves with what you can expect to earn back from your fan base buying those prints. So how have you actually found having a photo, getting into photo sales? What have been some of the great things about it and some of the challenges that you've faced doing it?
So I've had a couple of print sales myself, and they've all done quite well, which I was surprised with. But I will say there is a lot of work that goes into these print sales that I wasn't aware about.
Mm.
That can include personalized messages to people. And if you've got hundreds of orders and things, it's actually quite hard going through and time consuming going through and getting these orders right and making sure that your fans are happy with what they are paying for.
Yeah.
But I did really enjoy it. It was quite an odd experience seeing myself on people's walls, like pictures of me signed up on their walls. Not sure I'd put a picture of myself up on my wall, but but it was amazing that they enjoyed the picture enough to put it up. And I just think that's a really great sign that people are enjoying my work, and it really inspires me to keep going when I see that these people are enjoying my work so much they want to put it on their walls.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, and it's just such an honor.
It does seem like that odd thing when you just sort of um you
When
kind
you
of
still feel like that kind of inner nerd, like that closet nerd, it is a little strange thinking about that. I suppose it was something I kind of had to come to terms with, that people would actually want to buy photos of me.
yeah.
What?
You especially when you suddenly realize that you are a name and you've been surrounded by names your whole life, characters, actors, the people who make the comic books, you know them as names, and then all of a sudden you just go from being just Evey Dantès to Evey Dantès, Dantès Inferno, cosplay guest, person up on somebody else's wall. It must be the oddest feeling, you know what I mean?
Someone actually told me the other day that I'm in the top 10 cosplayers of Australia, which was to me was actually incredible to hear because I think there are just so many other cosplayers who so much more skilled and experienced than me.
Hmm.
who would also deserve spots there, and I just
Yeah.
can't believe that I'm one of them. That's amazing to me. Like I feel like I work hard, but there's a lot of people who work harder.
Mm, mm.
I think it is harder as a male to get recognition in this community, though.
Yes.
I have to
Yeah.
say, there's a lot of amazing male cosplayers. I don't think get quite the amount of love they deserve.
Well, I tell you what, Evie, I'm happy to take your recommendations if any of them would be willing to chat with me for the show, especially again if they have managed to turn their hobby into an income stream, no matter how large or small. So, yeah, shoot me through some names, and if you know any of them personally and can put a good word in, I would very much appreciate it.
Well, one of my closest friends is a male cosplayer. You might have heard of him, Zeke, as
Oh,
Manly Misty.
yes, yes. I loved the first time I ever saw Zeke was that lovely Misty evolved picture. And I've got to admit, I'm no poker fan myself, but at least I knew enough through osmosis to know what was going on. And oh, there's another fellow, CB Studios Cosplay.
Ah, yes,
One
he's
sort of
awesome too.
following.
Kurt, yeah,
I
he's
would
amazing.
love to see him and Zeke in cosplay at the same thing, especially with CB Studios' recent Hobbit-inspired cosplay, because it would be the greatest laugh to see Thorin at the Misty Mountain.
Yes, that would be cool. I saw that you also interviewed Beathy Photography.
Indeed, whom you have done some recent shots with.
Oh, I've been shooting a lot with Beathy lately, and I've been really enjoying it. I think he's an amazing photographer.
Mm.
He's also such a high profile kind of in this cosplay community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's funny to him to hear that, and I suppose it's kind of the same for me in
Yeah.
many ways
Yeah.
too.
So, your sponsorship deals, at least the one with G2A, I believe, they've been going on for a little while now. Is that right?
Yes, I have actually been sponsored by them for roughly 6 months or so. They're the same company that also sponsors PewDiePie.
Ah, right. Ah, of course, PewDiePie, the YouTube sensation. Mm,
Blogger.
yeah, I saw his Alien Isolation clips, which were
He's
absolutely
very
hilarious.
streamy.
Mm,
He's very hilarious. I love PewDiePie. I
yeah.
always have.
I think he's okay in small doses. I've seen a few of his other video clips and they didn't quite click with me again, maybe because I was playing Isolation at the time and absolutely loving it. And yeah, just his take on being absolutely terrified by the alien pursuing him through the various levels he was playing was just great. But other things I've seen I've just it haven't clicked with me as much. But God, he'd be a fun person to chat with, I'm sure, if I could ever get him on.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, G2A, how did you get involved with them?
Oh, they actually contacted me, which was quite
Ah,
refreshing, nice. And I don't have to do too much work for them. I'm just helping promote their company, really, and I get to game for free in return.
oh, okay, so they're directly supporting your habit.
Yes, they are. I wish I had more time for it.
Yeah.
But they've been awesome. And Smile Sciences,
Mm,
which is the teeth whitening company that also sponsors me, they've just been incredible. So Smile Sciences actually sends me packages through and things for teeth whitening, and I just put up pictures of me using the kits and stuff. But I mean, it's a great opportunity. We kind of get to bounce off each other, and I get whiter teeth. So a bit of a win-win situation for me.
mm,
But I've also started modeling for Living Dead clothing.
yes.
So they're an Australian brand, and they've just got amazing stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of the company Black Milk.
Yes,
It's
I came.
similar in a
Mm,
way, but less expensive.
mm.
And I personally like the designs better, but that's just
Yeah,
personal.
I think I know that pardon me, Black Milk does do a fair bit of geek related stuff, but I think does Living Dead clothing have that bit more of a focus?
Well, they've actually just sent me a care package that included a Juliet Starling costume.
Now I've got to admit Juliet Starling is not a name I'm familiar with, so tell us a little bit more about her.
She's from a game called Chainsaw Massacre, I think it is. Chainsaw Lollipop,
Oh,
is it?
Lollipop Chainsaw. Again,
That's it. Yeah,
never
I haven't
played
actually
it.
played it, but I own the game.
Mm,
But anyway, I'll have to get into it now since I own the outfit.
yeah.
She does have an awesome chainsaw, and I might have to look into making that for myself
Mm.
once I played the game.
Now, recently, another thing that you added to your cosplay repertoire, um, was being a an actual guest of cons rather than um, a I keep finding the wrong word, not audience member, but yeah, but just being someone who buys a ticket and goes along to the event, whether in cosplay or not. So,
Yeah.
again, how did that sort of happen for you?
Sorry, what was the question?
How
The
did becoming a convention guest as opposed to a convention attendee, how did that come about?
I think that was an amazing experience. I couldn't believe when they first suggested it to me. I've actually been to conventions now where I've had my own booths and things,
Mm,
and it's quite an unusual experience. I mean, there's this part of you that feels a bit sad you can't walk around the con as freely as you might like.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's easy for people to come find you, and it's great for exposure and things. And I do enjoy people being able to find me easily and come up and have a chat to me and take photos, whatever they want, you know.
Mm,
But yeah, it does take away a tiny bit from the con experience, I suppose.
mm,
Because as a bystander, you get to walk around, go to all the little stalls, and see all the amazing little products that people have made or are selling, or games or whatever.
mm,
Um,
mm,
I very much enjoy being a guest or anything though. It's still such an honor getting asked, I must say.
mm.
Uh, so Sugar City Con is coming up. Me, Chelsea, and Twerkin
Uh,
are all going to be there,
uh.
and I know, and we're dressing up as a DC sirens. So I think Twerkin will be Harley Quinn. I think Vicky Vic will be Catwoman, and I'm Poison Ivy.
Okay. Do you have any other cons coming up on your calendar? Whether as
Um,
that you're planning to attend as an attendee, or that you've been invited to as a guest?
I don't know if you've ever heard of the cosplayer Feisty Cuffs, KO. She's actually local from where I am,
Mm.
and me and her are helping organize a Shoalhaven convention.
Aha. So
So can't say too much about it at the moment,
mhm.
but it's helping get it organized with the Shoalhaven Heroes, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Right. Of course, it's tricky to talk about these things when you are on the organising side of things. There are a lot of things that are in discussion and that you don't really want to talk about until they get officially announced. Generally, though, what is your experience being involved on the other side of the screen? I mean, you've already been a guest and a stall holder, but now actually being part of that team who is actually preparing the con. How have you found that so far?
There is so much more work than I realized. Even organizing the venue, watching and helping with the venue has been exhausting, and I haven't really been that involved. So, and it's just amazing how much goes into these things.
Mm,
Um, even at looking at different guests and things, we're trying to organize different cosplayers to come down. We're looking at doing different media promotions and things, and it is a lot of work, and
mm.
I don't think people realize how much work goes into these events. And most of the people who run these events are nerds themselves, so they're one of us, one of us.
Absolutely. Is there a date yet for that convention?
It slipped my head at the moment, so I will just have to get back to you on that one. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no
It is
worries.
later this year, though. I'm thinking October.
All right, then we'll make sure that once you get the info to me, I'll put some links in the show notes to be sure.
Once the definites are in, I will be promoting it quite largely.
Fantastic. Okay, now, if there were three things that you wish that maybe someone had told you at the outset that perhaps would have, looking back, made your life and your experience as a cosplayer and as a sponsored cosplayer and as a guest and even as a con organizer a little bit easier, that maybe you could pass on to someone who was thinking about taking their own passion, whether it's cosplay or something else, and making it a real money making thing in their lives, what would those three things be? Sorry to put you on the spot, by the way, especially at short notice, but can you think of anything off the top of your head?
I think the number one thing I would say for people who are starting out to cosplay and things is that don't stress if it falls apart.
Mm,
Most of my costumes, large majority of my costumes, I've actually remade because I've made it once wasn't happy with it and I've completely remade it.
Mm.
And you know what? That's okay. We all do that.
Yeah.
We all trial and error. We all fiddle and things. What's another thing that I wish someone had told me before I got into cosplay? How expensive this hobby was going to be. I think for the money I get out of it, I put a lot more money into this hobby because, I mean, it is my passion. And I think it has become a little bit of an addiction at this point. I think the third thing, though, I would say is that it is addictive. Once you pop, you can't stop. I think I've got about 10 different costumes on the go at the moment. And I vow to finish them before starting any new ones.
Yeah. That's a question I keep forgetting to ask cosplayers, and I only just managed to do it most recently with Major Sam. If you were basically, not including the ones that you're working on at the moment, if you had to go out and do a cosplay tomorrow, how many characters would you say would you have a choice of in your wardrobe right now that you could pick to basically throw on for tomorrow?
16 pieces. I probably have about 10 to 15 costumes at the ready that can be pulled out for charity visits and hospital events and things like that. And that includes I've got Ash Ketchum, Corella DeVille, I've got Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, Alice. I've got a few, a large selection of costumes to pick from. But most of my costumes are in pieces at the moment and scattered around the house. So it would require some organising.
So, after having listened to this episode, if a listener wants to find out a little bit more about you and where your next con appearances are going to be, where can they get that information from?
If you check out my Facebook under Evey Dantès, you can definitely see all my upcoming events. But yeah, so Sugar City Con is the next one, and I think I'm going to Oz Comic Con in Brisbane and Brisnova. And I'm really looking forward to those. So, but I do tend to go to all the supernovas around Australia. I do tend to stay for those. So you can catch me at any of them.
That must be another thing that hits your hip pocket, travel expenses.
Definitely. It's I'm actually because I'm going to Mackay in 2 weeks' time for Sugar City Con. I paid for my flights back and things, and I'm actually bringing my mum and sister with me because they actually really wanted me to see me on stage, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah.
I did warn them it probably be as exciting as they think. My life isn't as glamorous as my webpage makes it look, but it should still be fun.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, you never quite know how it looks to other people, you know what I mean?
That's true.
Sometimes I think of it as the Lamborghini metaphor. You get sold on how it looks from the outside in this sleek piece of machinery hurtling, down a road, making this incredible noise, and then you realise that when you sit inside it, as much as it's got a great interior and lovely seats in the wheel, it's not the same thing as standing outside and watching. But,
yes, definitely.
But it's still, but at least it still can look pretty damn awesome. It's like, when it's you going past and your friends are going, holy crap, that's Evey. So, I think your mum and your sister are going to be stoked regardless.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm actually really pleased that they're coming.
Yeah. Well, Evey, once again, thank you very, very much for coming on the Pay to Play podcast.
You're welcome, Rob.
And have yourself a good evening.
I will. I'm heading out the door now, but thank you so much for this. And I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope I get to see you in the next few weeks anyway, Rob.
Unfortunately, unfortunately I can't make it to Sugar City Con. So you will not be seeing me down there, I'm afraid. But with any luck, at some point in the future, we'll be able to bump into each other and swap stories again.
Definitely. I look forward to it.
Bye, Evey.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
And thank you very much for listening. Thank you very, very much. It means a lot to me that you are downloading this episode and getting it between your ears, and I hope that the chat in this episode was of help to you. Now, there are a couple of things that I would like to ask you to do for me. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to it on iTunes or your preferred podcast aggregator. And while you're there, could you give it a rating and leave a review, please? Also, on social media, could you like, favourite and share it? The Paid to Play podcast has pages on Facebook and Google+. Please like the page or add it to your circles as appropriate. Like +1 and share the episodes, and also join the Facebook group Fans of the Paid to Play podcast. There is also a Paid to Play podcast channel on YouTube where I upload the episodes. Please like and share them, and I would love to see your comments there. If you are a Twitterer, I am there as well. You can follow me at ByRobF. That's Bravo Yankee Romeo Oscar Bravo Foxtrot. I tweet the episodes on there, so if you could please favourite and retweet as well. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I would love it if you could sign up to Patreon and back the Paid to Play podcast. You will find the Patreon page for this podcast at www.patreon.com. That's Papa Alpha Tango Romeo Echo Oscar November.com/paid to play, all one word. Patreon is a crowdfunding website where, instead of backing a specific project once, people back ongoing projects like podcasts on a per month or per episode basis. You'll find my milestones and goals for the Patreon campaign there, and it would be great if you could get behind this podcast on a financial basis, even if it's just for $1 an episode. It will help me make the podcast bigger and better. I will be able to put a little bit more time and cash into it, and that way it will be able to better help you get paid to play. Now, next week's episode is going to be an even episode, which means it's Money Where My Mouth Is, Musings and Mailbag. It's where I talk about my own progress toward getting paid to play, put a little bit of overthinking into some of the issues I've encountered, and the overall idea of taking what you love doing and asking people to pay you for the products and skills of doing what you love. And I also answer your questions and read out your feedback. So I would love any mailbag submissions you might have. You can get in touch with me via any of the aforementioned social media. You can either leave a comment on the page or send me a private message. You can also email me at podcast@robf.com.au. Please indicate that your comment or email or private message is a mailbag question, and that you're okay for me to read it out on the episode, and also whether you're okay with me giving your name or online ID as the person who submitted the feedback or question. And if you've got multiple online IDs, please let me know which one you would prefer me to use. I am not a psychologist or trained therapist or coach. I'm just a guy with a mic and a dream and a little bit of experience and perspective. But again, I would love to hear from you. So, until next time, this is Rob Farker asking you to stand by your play. You might be surprised how many folks appreciate it. I license the interview and monologue content of the Paid to Play podcast under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 3.0 unported license. That roughly means you can sample, remix and redistribute it as long as you tell people that the bits of it you use came from Rob Farker and don't charge anyone for your work. For the full legal text, go to creativecommons.org. The theme music is written, performed by, copyright and used with the kind permission of Miracle of Sound. All rights reserved. For more great music inspired by geek culture, check out miracleofsound.net. This podcast is hosted by Business Web Integrations. Get in touch with them at businesswebintegrations.com.au to discuss your web hosting and business needs.